10 best times Star Trek characters met their doubles, whether due to alternate universes or weird transporter malfunctions. Several Star Trek characters have met their doubles. Doppelganger storylines have been a trope of Star Trek since one of the earliest episodes of Star Trek, the original series, Season 1, Episode 5, The Enemy Within. Almost every Star Trek series since has featured at least one story where a character encounters an alternate version of themselves. This trope is not unique to Star Trek, of course, as many science fiction and fantasy stories have found creative ways to incorporate multiple versions of the same character. Like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, with its many variants of classic characters, Star Trek has introduced its own kind of multiverse. Star Trek began exploring this idea back in the 1960s with the Evil Mirror universe, but modern Trek has greatly expanded the concept. With time travel shenanigans, pesky wormholes, and technical issues, it's no surprise that duplicates pop up so often. However, partly because of the popularity of the device, some doppelganger Star Trek stories and scenes work better than others. In Star Trek, Voyager series finale, Admiral Catherine Janeway, Kate Mulgrew, travels back in time to visit her former self. The Admiral orders Captain Janeway to return to a Borg transwarp hub Voyager had passed several days ago. Voyager can use this to return home, saving the ship from 16 more years stranded in the Delta Quadrant. Captain Janeway and her crew, however, want to use Admiral Janeway's future technology to destroy the transwarp network and weaken the Borg. Admiral Janeway travels to the Unicomplex, which houses the Borg Queen, Alice Krige, and unleashes a pathogen that infects the Borg and deals the collective a devastating blow. Although the Admiral dies in the blast, Captain Janeway manages to lead her Voyager through the transwarp corridor back to the Alpha Quadrant. Voyager is then greeted by a fleet of Starfleet vessels who escort the ship home to Earth. In Second Chances, the USS Enterprise D travels to Nervala 4 and discovers a duplicate of William Riker, Jonathan Frakes. This LT Riker had been serving on the USS Potemkin when he was unknowingly left behind after a transporter accident, beamed one Riker back to the ship, and left one on the planet. Having lived alone on an inhospitable planet for 8 years, Thomas Riker has become a different man than his Enterprise counterpart. When Thomas comes aboard the Enterprise D, he clashes with Commander Riker and later wishes to rekindle his romance with Counselor Deanna Troi, Marina Sirtis. In the end, Thomas Riker decides to leave the Enterprise for another posting in Starfleet. As revealed in Star Trek Deep Space Nine Season 3, Episode 9, Defiant, Riker later leaves Starfleet to join the rebel group known as the Maquis. In the Star Trek Lower Decks Season 5 opener, the USS Cerritos gets pulled into a dimensional rift and encounters an alternate universe Cerritos. In a surprising twist, Becky Freeman, the duplicate of LT Beckett Mariner, Tawny Newsome, serves as the ship's captain. Unlike the Prime Universe Mariner, Becky has climbed the ranks quickly and established herself as a tough captain, but she's not entirely happy in her position. Throughout Star Trek's vast universe, one theme that has remained constant is the exploration of identity and duality. One of the most intriguing aspects of this exploration comes in the form of characters meeting their doubles, be it through time travel, parallel universes, or clones. These encounters often reveal new facets of the characters involved, providing deeper insight into their personalities and motivations. Here are 10 of the best times Star Trek characters met their doubles, ranked not just for their novelty, but also for the way they advance the narrative. 10. Data and Lore TNG Data Lore. One of the most iconic double encounters in Star Trek The Next Generation is between the beloved android Data and his more malevolent brother, Lore. Lore was built first, but was deactivated for being too human and unpredictable. Data, on the other hand, represents a more idealized, loyal, and logical version of artificial life. Their encounters often highlight the ethical quandaries of artificial intelligence and sentience. Lore's deceitful and emotional nature acts as a counterbalance to Data's cold logic, and their sibling rivalry brings both humor and philosophical depth to the series. 9. Kirk and Evil Kirk, TOS, The Enemy Within. In Star Trek The Original Series, the episode The Enemy Within introduces a transporter accident that splits Captain Kirk into two entities, one embodying his goodness and rationality, and the other his base instincts and aggression. This duality forces Kirk to confront the darker parts of his own psyche, as well as the necessity of balancing both his compassionate leadership and the assertive decisiveness needed for command. It's one of the first times Star Trek explored the theme of duality, with William Shatner delivering a memorable performance in both roles. 8. Janeway and her duplicate, VOY, Deadlock. In Star Trek Voyager's episode Deadlock, Captain Janeway and her crew encounter a parallel version of Voyager due to a quantum anomaly. Both versions of Janeway must work together to prevent the destruction of their ships, but only one Voyager can survive the encounter. The interactions between the two Janeways, each a mirror of the other's determination, to the depth of the character. They ultimately come to an agreement, highlighting the selflessness and sacrifice of the captain. 7. Spock and Mirror Spock, TOS, Mirror Mirror. One of the most famous episodes of the original series, Mirror Mirror transports several members of the Enterprise crew into a parallel universe where the Federation is a ruthless, authoritarian empire. Spock's mirror counterpart is a sinister version of himself, complete with a goatee. What makes this encounter especially fascinating is that while Mirror Spock is ruthless, he's still driven by logic, showing that even in a vastly different universe, some elements of Spock's character remain unchanged. It's a moment that defines Star Trek's fascination with parallel realities. 6. O'Brien and his clone, DS9 Whispers. Chief O'Brien's encounter with his double in Deep Space Nine's Whispers is both eerie and heartbreaking. The episode follows what seems to be the real O'Brien slowly realizing that everyone around him is acting suspiciously, leading to paranoia. By the end, it's revealed that O'Brien himself is a clone created by an alien species as part of a complex conspiracy. The real O'Brien has been replaced, and his clone is destroyed after completing his mission. The tragedy of the clone believing he was the real person makes this one of the more emotionally charged encounters. 5. Thomas Riker, TNG, Second Chances. In the TNG episode Second Chances, a transporter accident creates a duplicate of William Riker. The duplicate, who takes on the name Thomas Riker, has lived isolated for years, developing into a slightly different version of the man known as Commander Riker. This encounter raises compelling questions about identity and individuality, especially when Thomas Riker later joins Deep Space Nine, seeking a path for himself that diverges from his original counterparts. This scenario touches on how small changes in circumstance can create entirely different lives. 4. Kira and Mirror Kira DS9 crossover. The Deep Space Nine episode crossover sees Major Kira meeting her Mirror Universe counterpart, Intendant Kira, a twisted and manipulative ruler of the Terran Empire. The two Kiras couldn't be more different. Where the original Kira is loyal, disciplined, and driven by her principles, the Mirror Kira is vain, hedonistic, and power-hungry. Nana Visitor's dual performance is stunning, and the encounter challenges Kira's understanding of what she could have become under different circumstances, giving her character more depth. 3. Picard and Future Picard, TNG, Time Squared. In the Next Generation episode Time Squared, Captain Picard encounters a future version of himself, who is mysteriously brought back in time after his ship is destroyed. The future Picard is disoriented, struggling with the trauma of the disaster, and his behavior unnerves the present-day captain. This interaction brings out Picard's worst fears about making the wrong decisions and the weight of command. It's a rare glimpse into Picard's vulnerability and uncertainty, making for one of the most introspective time travel encounters in the series.